Jason.
I want to thank all of council for three of separate of you making fun of me and making sure I knew the meeting was at 6. Thanks, guys.
You have somebody in the waiting room, sir.
Hey, that's people that care.
I know. And Brent was absolutely one of them.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance to the flag.
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll have personal appeals part 1. If you have a personal appeal, please just state your name, where you're from, and what your appeal is. You have 5 minutes. Either of you have a public appeal?
Something to say, I don't know if it's an appeal or what it is.
Well, this would be the proper time. Yep, just say your name and where you're from.
My name is Samuel Lester, this is my wife Maria.
Hello.
I reside at 552 Franklin Street with my 94-year-old mom. And the school kids have taken over our street. I'm tired of it. I've had the police there. They say there's absolutely nothing they can do unless they park in our driveway. They're out front of our driveway, in front of our house. She can barely get out of the driveway. They're up and down Franklin Street. It's time for some signs. The school should be responsible for parking those kids, not us.
I agree, and we have permit parking in other, and I saw it was on our safety committee. They discussed it already. So they are aware of the situation.
Sir, I'm John Hart and I chair the Public Safety Committee. And we are working that. We're having the police survey the area for the next 2 weeks. And then we meet the 4th Thursday of this month. And we'll have a recommendation from them to expand the limited parking in your area. So thank you.
The street isn't a very wide street. You know, your brother lives right there.
I grew up there.
And when they park on both sides, I watched the truck come down and he was like,
It's tight. It's tight. Yep.
you know, and the kids park there and it's like, she can't get out. I have a full-size truck. I leave before they're there. But you know, some gotta be.
Well, it's being addressed. It's being addressed. And John,
I feel the school should.
when they do their permits, is it only seniors or certain classes that can get?
That's
So do they look to see if all those spaces are filled? Do they only give so many permits for the space? Because if their space is
we
open,
don't know that.
they should allow parking in there.
We don't know that answer.
Yeah, okay. I plugged in.
Sir, I will get your name and your number and I will give you a buzz after our meeting. Yes.
You know, in the morning before.
Oh, there's a sign-in sheet there.
Oh. In the morning before he goes to work, I have to get up, go outside, downstairs and move my car to the street because sometimes I have to take my mother-in-law to the doctor or to other things that I need to do with her. And if the kids park in front of the house, this elderly woman, it's really hard for her to walk, much less to go a long distance. So.
Ma'am, what was your name again? I'm sorry.
Maria Colon.
Maria. Okay, thank you. It's gonna be in March.
March, yeah, the 4th Thursday of March.
It may be the tail end of the school year, but it will definitely be addressed before the next school year, but because the committee meets once a month, so.
Unless you guys could put like a handicap sign right in front of the house or something.
But even that's a whole process. It doesn't just happen.
Because then we get company, they can't park.
Yeah.
Or a lady that lives on corners, it's solid. If she gets company, they got nowhere.
Yeah, one of the things that the committee is looking at is your street as well as the surrounding streets around it, because once we ban them from your street,
Then they go another.
they're gonna move another block, right? So one of the things we're having, asking the police department to look at is kind of the entire area there as to what we can do to improve that. Unfortunately, and we've talked about the school can do their permit parking, but what they can't do is they can't tell you can't drive your vehicle to a public street and park it somewhere, right? And so that's what they're doing. And that's why the police had responded to you the way that they did, because there's no restriction right now to allow them to park on that public street. And the school, well, they don't have to hear about it technically. I mean, they should hear about it, but there's not a lot legally they can be forced to do. If a junior in high school wants to drive and park on a public street, school's out of that argument, unfortunately. I mean, we think that the school has some accountability there, but we have to look at it kind of as okay, if they don't park on your block, that's great, we took care of your block. But in 2 months, we're gonna have the neighborhood right next door to you to look at too. So they're asking to kind of look at it on a holistic view to see if we can address.
Sooner or later, they'll have the park so far away, they won't even be.
Right, right.
Well, Madam Mayor and I have been on council long enough when this first came up, parking permits, and some neighbors actually didn't want it at the time when it first came up. And it was only a few blocks and just directly by the school. And since then, it keeps creeping out further. I was surprised North Seventh Street Circle was part of I mean, it just keeps going further and further. At some point, it's gonna be half the
She said, "Don't
northern
say it,
central
we
part
don't
of the
have
town.
to make it." It's like the street is solid.
Yeah.
It's out of control.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
for bringing
we're
this.
gonna
up.
leave, okay? Hopefully you
Oh, that's fine. You don't want to join us for another hour?
We might be playing bingo.
Hey, we will be finished before school starts tomorrow, so you won't get a parking space at all.
can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, take care. We have our virtual guest tonight. We'll unmute you if you have a public appeal. Please just, once again, if you can turn your camera on and state your name and where you're from and what your appeal is, now would be the time to do it. Anybody?
Yeah.
All right, nobody has an appeal? All right, thank you. At this time, we'll go to community minute. Does anybody have anything to bring forward? Hearing none, there's no special presentations. We have the reading minutes of February 6th of this year. Does anybody have a motion to approve the minutes? Councilman Bally, seconded by Councilman Hart. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. Decisions on bids, we have our fuels that went out to bid. And we have, it went to committee and the committee recommends Lehigh Fuels for number 2 heating oil, unleaded fuel and diesel fuel. And for kerosene diesel direct Mid-Atlantic LLC was recommended. Would somebody like to, do I have to say the amounts?
Yeah, you don't have to.
All right, would somebody
No,
like,
you don't have to, Brent.
would somebody like to make a motion to approve those 2 companies for our fuel? Councilman Valley, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. Is there any discussion on the bid? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. Under communications, we received a communication from Todd Ackerman for reappointment to the Planning Commission. His new term would expire April 1st of 2027. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve Todd Ackerman for reappointment? Councilwoman McManaman, seconded by Councilwoman Baumgartner. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. We have the EMA's 5 miler again, which is, I think, maybe 8 years now. Same course, same times, and they're asking for the approval of the use of the triangle with alcohol, which they're not charging it. I guess they get it with the race. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve that? They do have the proper insurance. Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. Any discussion on this? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No borough engineers report, solicitors report.
The only items I have, one was with respect to the parking kiosk. I spoke to Mr. Pepe. I made a few changes to that just to tighten it up. And I did speak to Mr. Pepe. I've had 2 separate municipalities go out to bid on trash recently. You should be aware that the costs are rising quite extravagantly on new trash bids. And I believe Mr. Pepe said you still have 2 years on your contract, but just be aware that that is in the works. That's all I have. Progress.
Thank you.
So the parking kiosk changes were not significant. If you looked at your stuff this morning, beyond 8:30 a.m., the changes were already instituted. So they were clerical in nature.
They don't change the content of the ordinance, so there's no need to re-advertise.
It's not advertised yet. It's first reading tonight.
Certainly makes it easier.
Thank you. We have nothing under unfinished business part one. We have under new business ordinance 1239. An ordinance establishing chapter 15, part 5 of the Emmaus Code of Ordinances, parking kiosk zones, including days and hour parking limits, placement and characteristic of parking, payment, unlawful acts, ticketing, permits, as well as violations, penalties, and exceptions for kiosk zones within the borough of Emmaus. This is our first reading. Second reading would be second meeting of March,
Yes, sir. 20th.
20th of March. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1239? Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Any discussions or questions on the ordinance? I believe it's 9 pages.
Yeah, do you want us to explain it briefly or?
Sure, give us the highlights.
So essentially, as we looked at the parking lot, which the borough's renting, we examined how we are going to regulate that lot. And so the discussion from the Public Safety Committee came up as to, we'll regulate it through some kind of metered parking. And we felt that the best way to meter that parking was what most municipalities are doing today. And that's a kiosk parking style. So as we looked at drafting the ordinance, we had said, we should probably draft an ordinance that in case the borough in the future wants to put a kiosk in any other part of the borough, we have a blanket ordinance that governs the entire concept of it. So right now, it would only cover that parking lot on Main Street, 321 Main, 311 Main. It would only cover that right now. However, if you decided to put a kiosk in any other section of town in a borough controlled parking area, the overarching ordinance is already drafted and designed. That's why it's such a long ordinance.
So if that happened and we added another section, there would be an addendum to the ordinance specifying?
Yeah, so you would have a one-page ordinance that says,
location.
amending this, and the location is put right in there, kind of like.
Yeah.
300 parking ordinances that we've done in the last 10 years, where it's amend this section.
Okay,
That's,
It's designed for cut and paste in order to save time and expense in the future.
okay.
And Shane did a good job with it.
Anybody else with a question? So roll call vote.
Aye.
Oh, Council.
And this could be a Mr. Solicitor question, but I think in this ordinance, I'd like something to be put in there that people seeking special exceptions for parking can't utilize kiosk parking to meet their special exceptions. So like if someone puts in
So
and there's short spots or something like that, that future councils can't agree to rent public parking spots for people to meet special conditions.
Mr. Valiant, I would actually say that's probably a zoning ordinance change that would be appropriate to the parking section of your zoning ordinance. We can address that since the zoning ordinance is already being reconsidered.
If
But
there's support for it.
generally speaking, that would not be, your zoning ordinance wouldn't allow for that anyway in my reading of it. And it would not be something the zoning board, I would think, would entertain to begin with, to be perfectly blunt, but.
Anything else?
No,
Okay.
that's it.
That's a good point, though. I mean,
no,
you
then it's
don't
a
want,
good,
you don't want it overtaken by somebody buying apartments and they need X amount of spots and they're gonna say, oh, we're just gonna rent 4 spots here. And that's what he's
No,
looking at.
that's-
And I
So,
mean, this current council wouldn't be guilty of it or zoning, but I mean, this is stuff people could be still working off of in 15 years.
Agreed, but the problem is they would be getting their approval for that from the zoning board, so it has to be a modification to the zoning ordinance, not to this particular ordinance.
thank you. Any other comments or questions? So roll call vote, Councilwoman McManaman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner,
Aye.
Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Lamberg, aye. Councilman DeFrane,
Aye.
Councilman Hart,
Aye.
Councilman Valiant.
Aye.
There are 7 ayes. Under new business, we have another
I would, if I may.
Mhm.
Okay, also attached for your information.
Right.
Is a resolution, not for your action tonight. We purposely leave the public safety. Wanted to leave the fees out of the ordinance and handle that by resolution like we do all, and we probably would do it every year at budget time too. come up with the numbers that we would charge for that, like we do. for-
This would be incorporated into our actual fee schedule.
Correct,
But,
but we're gonna have to have.
but we have to address it for this
This
year.
year, yes, correct.
So you would have to adopt the ordinance before you would adopt the rest.
So we're looking at this coming up next month.
It would come in March 20th down on the public safety agenda if you adopt the kiosk ordinance on the 20th, then.
Okay.
Then that would be
Thank you.
for your consideration.
All right, ordinance 1240, an ordinance of the Borough of Emmaus, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, amending chapter 1, part 1, adding subsection 108 of the Code of Ordinances establishing hiring and promotion procedures for upper management employees. This is first reading, where second reading would also be March 20th. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1240? Councilman Hart, is there a second? Councilman Balliet? Discussion?
Mr. President, just curious. The difference between what we have been doing now and why this is being put in place, just a little. I guess I would say a couple recap of it, just for the public is concerned.
We presently have no requirement to advertise on the outside. If we think we have an internal candidate that we simply want to. We don't have to advertise. We don't have to consider outside candidates.
So I would tell you that the conversation that stemmed into this was transparency and consistency were the two words that I heard the most. One, transparency to the public, that you have a responsibility to the citizens to hire the best person possible, and not just an internal candidate that you like. And two, consistency in terms of we do it this way this time, we do it this way this time, we do it a little bit different way the next time. So when I know the Public Safety Committee, it stemmed from them to be proposed to the Gen Ag Committee to consider the ordinance. But that was the big conversation from the Public Safety Committee side that projected it over to Gen Ag to consider the ordinance.
You are right, Mr. Anders, in that we have for the departmental positions recently gone to the outside to advertise as well.
Right, we've done it both ways. That's why I'm just asking why the ordinance when, I know we've done that. I guess it's for, and to go back to Mr. Valley, I guess for future councils to have the consistency that this is proposing, correct?
So my opinion is on the transparency, this council has been more transparent than any body that I know of, and I don't think that's an issue to bring up with this. We've always been transparent, including hiring. Second, the consistency. I don't think that future councils should be locked in. If you have a superstar and you want to hire from within, I don't think you should have to do a dog and pony show to interview other people just to say that you interviewed other people and spend the money to do it. We also have hired from outside. We hired somebody from Alabama that didn't work. We hired somebody from South Carolina that didn't work. So it's not a guarantee that you're going to get the best candidates. We had in-house people that failed. We had in-house people that were superstars. We had out-of-house people that were failures and cost us money. And we had people that came from out of the area that were superstars. So I don't think it guarantees you anything, but it does guarantee that you're locking in future councilmen to have that flexibility. And it also guarantees that you're spending money on the advertising. So that's my view on it. I think again, I'm on a minority here, but I just don't think we should be locking in future councils for having that flexibility. I think it's a hiring flexibility. I don't think it's a consistency thing. So anybody else with a comment?
I guess my only follow-up to that, and I partially agree, but I know in the corporate world where I work right now, I have 2 positions for management, mid-level management, and I have great internal candidates, but we still have to entertain outside people. And, you know, I have to interview people actually this week for positions, both internal and external. So I think we this is just reading it over and hearing it sets that same tone with what many in the outside corporate world do.
I think it's just our due diligence. I mean, it's good. I mean, even through the interview process, you can, even if it.
How our due diligence work with the person that came from Alabama or North Carolina, how that worked?
Oh, you hired me from the outside, you hired her from the outside.
Right. So there's both sides. It's not a
Yeah.
guarantee.
No,
You
but
should have that flexibility.
You know, and then when you're interviewing people, sometimes like you could even realize really how great we do have an internal candidate. And then
I'm sorry.
no, it just, it amplifies that we are doing the right thing on hiring within maybe for that some chance.
I won't hold it up any longer because I know where I stand on this, but I just disagree with you guys, and that's the way we work here.
Mr. Weaver, can I say one thing? No, we're not tying in other councils, because if there's ever 4 out of 7, they decide that's not a good ordinance, they can get rid of it. So technically, only as long as council.
Spend money to get rid of an ordinance. But you're right. It's
Right.
not locking them in.
Right.
All right. This is also a roll call vote. Councilwoman McMenamin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner.
Aye.
Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Layberg, no. Councilman DeFrey.
Aye.
Councilman Hart,
Aye.
Councilman Valiant.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes, 1 no, Councilman Layberg. Second reading will be March 20th. We have no unfinished business part 2. Items not on the agenda. Anybody have anything to bring forward that is not advertised? Hearing none, Madam Mayor's report.
I have no report progress.
I like that. Committee reports. Public Works Committee, Chairman Anders.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met on February 15th, and we do have a couple items for official action this evening. The first is the South Second Street rehabilitation project bid specifications. As you know, South Second Street is a road project that we will be undertaking later this year. This is our bid specifications to get it set to advertise and award the bid for the project. The timeline is given in your iPads. I'll make the motion to approve the specifications. Jane, did you need to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I mean, so you already made a motion. Let's wait for a second. And we'll
Is there a second?
Thank you.
Motion by Councilman Anders, second by Councilman Valiant. What Shane's gonna bring is, if you could bring up the 5th attachment,
It's the attachment that has all the numbers, like,
yeah, the second last one, right above the ADA plans. It should be a map. Go ahead.
so. The bid specs for the most part are standard. It's a multimodal grant application. What you're looking at there is a drawing of under the underpass of the railroad. And in particular, this proposal, we were given a bunch of different options and we talked about it at committee in detail. This particular proposal, this is really kind of the only spot in these bid specs that council would need to, if you wanted to change something, this is kind of the spot that was up for debate. So this particular proposal, what it does is it takes South Second Street and it's going to do 2 things. One is, the goal is to make pedestrian traffic safer. So we know right now, there is no sidewalk or walkway underneath the underpass. So it's a run at your own risk kind of method. On the east side, there's no sidewalk connecting even on the other side of the underpass. On the west side, the sidewalk ends, then you kind of, close your eyes and run under the underpass and hope you don't get hit by a car and then get on the sidewalk, right? That's kind of what it feels like. So we looked at multiple options as to how to address that to make pedestrian traffic safer. Because this is a multimodal transportation grant, the whole idea is to address pedestrian and obviously the reconstruction and the repaving of the road. What we came up with was to put a sidewalk on both sides of the road under the underpass, put a stop sign and limit that underpass to 1 lane of traffic. So you end up squeezing it in. And only 1 vehicle at a time can go underneath the railroad bridge. So now, if you're on the west side of the road, you can connect from the houses all the way down the main street through sidewalk connections. If you're on the east side of the road, same kind of concept. The lane would be almost 15 feet wide, so it's still more than wide enough for a tractor trailer. Well, for a tractor trailer to get stuck under the bridge that they're not allowed to go under. But a wider vehicle, a school bus, box truck, etc., would still be able to go through there. Our plows are 11.5 feet wide, So there's plenty of room for them to be able to go through, but it narrows it down. And so by narrowing it down, what it does is that half a mile of straight road where there is no traffic control device, it forces a stop and go spot there. So it's going to.
You're gonna have a brand new smooth road there, and if they could just have a clear shot all the way to the railroad, they're gonna be speeding, and this is a traffic calming.
So it does calm the traffic. It does address the pedestrian safety with sidewalk on both sides of the road. You only have to do a 48-inch sidewalk. This one's actually a little bit wider than that. I think it's 4.5 feet. So it's like 53 inches, or 54 inches instead. So it addresses the ADA compliance issues that we need. The entire project, all the ADA curb ramps are going to be redone, the crosswalks, all that stuff will be done. There is another option that you can consider here, and that's just a sidewalk on the west end of the area, and then do crosswalks kind of on one side of the bridge to connect where the sidewalks are already built on the east side. The concern with some of that is, first of all, you'll still have 2 lanes of traffic going through there, which could be a concern. Secondly, you're doing a crosswalk in a non-intersection type of spot, which can be concerning. So the engineer felt, and the committee also felt as a whole, that this option of doing that would be the best fit. But you guys need to discuss it because you are changing what the lane of traffic looks like. It's no longer going to be 2 lanes. You're going to have a stop sign on each side of the underpass, and it's going to narrow traffic in. So that is where the major change would be on that road. And so your bid specs right now contain that option. If you feel strongly against that option, tonight's the night that we would really want to have that discussion, because we're getting ready to put this out to bid.
If I could just add, if you could picture on Mac Boulevard, the train underpass there, it's the same situation. You have to stop on each side and they go one at a time. The only difference is they have no sidewalk there. It's just one guardrail on the right side if you're going north.
Yeah, I will tell you that even if you have a sidewalk on one side, you definitely improve that
Yes.
pedestrian safety. So like we take care of that, like close your eyes and hope to goodness nobody's flying through. And you live in the neighborhood, so you've paid witness to the traffic issues there. So even if you have it just on one side, we're still addressing getting people through there. It's just a matter of what's your opposition or approval of narrowing that down and doing a traffic calming. So
You said almost everything that we talked about in J, but the other thing that I think we talked about, I just want to make sure here, whether it's both sides sidewalk or one side, the plan is that during construction, one lane's gonna always stay open. So people get across and fire trucks can still get across and buses can still get across and all that.
yeah, so that's the intention at this point. Because if that's closed up there, there's no way to get to a fire.
Right.
So the intention, our engineer is subcontracting to Traffic Engineer and Design Group to help him with design of traffic during that time, just to make sure that we can pull that off. But yeah, the intention is people are going to be able to get through there. At least half of the road should be open. Now, at some point, when they narrow it in and they pave that 14-foot section, it may be closed for some hours that day, but we're not talking about.
But if there's a fire there that day, the workers should still be there and a fire truck should be able to
Yes.
still get across. We just have to fix something.
Thank you, because that was one of the concerns of the residents was, well, how do we, and I live on the other side of the tracks per se. The only other way for us to get to town would be go up over the mountain and come down and around Fifth Street and so forth.
Yeah, and we're aware that there's no other outlet to get there. So yeah, so their plan, because it's a wide street, other than that piece, the plan would be half and half.
The other question that has come up to me is during this construction, well, before it starts for parking, while they're doing construction, how are we notifying the residents when it's starting and that? How
They will receive written notification, the
Okay,
entire neighborhood.
that was some of the things that came to me.
There's a project that's going to be going prior to our project. UGI is putting a new main
Right.
all the way down the road as well, so.
I don't know if I brought this up during the committee meeting or not, but does PennDOT have any say in this at all?
No.
I didn't think they did, but I wanted to ask.
So that said, they do all the way up at the intersection of Main and Second Street.
Right,
They-
because that's a state
They
road.
may have some say in where we meet the road with our paving and the crosswalk area.
I meant
Yeah,
specifically.
but
the,
no, they have
sidewalk,
no say in the rest of Second.
Because we're changing it from 2 lanes to 1. That's the only reason I was asking.
No, as long as it's not a state road, Brent, you don't have to worry about that.
I assumed that, but I wanted to verify. Go ahead, Shannon.
During Gen Ed, when we were discussing this, we talked about one side of the road has 2 poles. And right now, the speculation is that it should still work, but should that not work? What would be the steps? Like, could we proceed?
So you could, I mean, so the design, so I looked at the design again with the engineer, briefly spoke with him. The plan is definitely to avoid both poles. Because to move a PPL pole is probably a $30,000-$40,000 expense on a project. And the position is because the sidewalk is coming out away from the bridge. As we bring it back in, we'll bring it back in front of that pole. Is how that'll work. So there's no intention at this point to move that pole.
Have we started reaching out to the railroad? Yes. Or anything?
We are finishing the design specs here, and then we'll go through with that. But as far as the railroad in terms of what?
They have a say? No, do we have to wait for them to respond?
So we're just gonna inform them.
When it goes above it, only runs twice a week.
I just know that it always seems like getting hold of the railroad is very difficult.
Yeah, the other,
Unless you're modifying their structures, you're not required to let them know in this case.
Anybody else? All right, we had a motion and a second, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Anders and Mr. Bowie, are there anything else on it that you need to know or don't understand?
All right,
So let me be clear that the motion included the specs as we showed them to you.
Mhm.
All right, so that would include
I can amend that.
well, unless you want to do it different, but
At committee level, we felt that that was the current way we wanted to go. I would agree with that.
yeah, we had a recommendation 3-0, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Those opposed? There's 7 ayes.
okay, the second item that I have for you this evening is the curbside yard waste pickup program. Just a slight change to, I guess, the program. There will be a limit of 5 bags allowed to be placed at the curb for pickup. It will be a one time a week pickup. As we have always done, they needed to call in or email or pickup if they were going to have that. All the items that are listed are still the same. And this is for yard waste, basically your grass, your clippings and so forth. So I will make that form of a motion, Shane.
Motion by Councilman Anders, is there a second? Councilman Dufrain, any discussion? This was brought,
John has-
oh,
Yeah, are we prepared for what I would envision to be a substantial increase in this as a result of us charging outside contractors to use our recycling? So they've already done that as far as notifying their clients that, they have no intention of benefit the bugs. So that they're gonna have to bags if they're.
I mean, I guess we'll have to see how the first year goes with it. But we've had people who have been putting out 15, even as high as 20 some bags
every week.
every week. And in the weight of those bags that our personnel would be lifting was getting heavy where it could be.
it was past the 50-pound weight limit.
past the-
But what we don't know is how many people are not putting their waste out, because they're being taken up to the recycling center by a commercial.
Well, if they do, they only can put out 5 bags a week, so.
Well, but with that said, though, if they ride with the commercial person to the site,
Yeah, that's true.
our issue is we know for a fact that there are more than one commercial contractor in this borough that is dumping their waste that is not from the borough. That's why that policy was changed. This policy, we've looked at the amount of houses that give us waste, and it's the same. The average is about 5 bags or less, but it's the same several. That it's 15 bags every week and they're 80 pounds to 100 pounds a piece.
I might add that this is not something we just came up with. In the committee, we've been discussing this for over a year. And Lawrence came forward with a policy with our input, you know, this and that, you know, we looked at the numbers and all that, and we came up what we thought was a fair program. And previously, just so you know what it was before, it was 2 pickups a week. And we didn't have any limit, and there were people abusing it, and the amount of time taken was how many people doing it 2 full days, if not 3 days? How many was it?
It was 2 full-time guys for 2 days.
Yeah,
a week.
now it's gonna be 1 day a week. And those people are gonna be freed up where they can do other things instead of picking up yard waste. When, you know, people are putting 15, 20 bags out, and we have the addresses of where, there's records of it. So we're adjusting
So
that.
I did want to add, we are also increasing our hours at the
Compost,
site,
yeah,
so
eventually, yeah.
people will be able to take more over under at more time than previous.
I don't want to be misinterpreted. I am supporting this. It is, are we anticipating
Of course,
increase?
We are.
As a result of people no longer having their commercial hauler to it.
We don't feel that it's a dramatic increase.
it will increase, but it won't be dramatic. And they can only put 5 bags out. I mean. So,
I don't know how much, I don't know how much the hauler was taking away, but you know, if it's more than 5 bags, then they're either sitting it at their house or whatever.
You're focusing on 5 bags per customer. You don't know how many customers are putting their 4 or 5 bags in commercial haulers. Just so we can be prepared for that, that's all.
correct. But that's for the commercial people to figure out on their own. And the people that hire them. So they're the ones that need to figure that out.
No, it's for our people to be
Prepared,
ready to pick up
prepared,
the
right.
additional ones. That's all I'm saying.
And like I said, every call, every email that comes in gets tracked, so we'll have tracking of it for a year.
Yeah, that's the other thing, Mr. Hart, and I definitely appreciate that, because that's something that we will need to track the differences on. The nice thing is we have the spreadsheets of every single,
Yeah, so if we
Calling
get
how
new
much they-
additional addresses, we're gonna know.
well, or the sheer number of bags changes.
Good point. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
As opposed, there are 7 ayes.
the only other thing I wanted to mention from the meeting notes, we do have interviews upcoming for the Public Works Department. And, the other thing was, I wanted to give a shout out to Lawrence. He provided us a very detailed goal oriented spreadsheet with this year's projects and timelines. He took a lot of time to provide that for us. If you have that or want to see it, you know, I would say look it over. It's good that we have a way to gauge what we're doing this year and when it's going to be done. And at the end of the year, we actually have a way to see what was all accomplished. So I'll just thank you to Mr. Carl for providing that. Rest of the notes are there, and our next meeting is scheduled for March 15th at 4 p.m. via Zoom. And with that, I'll report progress.
Thank you. And I might add, with that chart that Lawrence did, it opens your eyes to how much they actually really do. They do a lot. When you look at it, you realize, wow, they really do cover a lot of things in this borough. So, Health, Sanitation and Code Committee Chairman Balliet.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have nothing for official action. We meet tomorrow. 45, that'll report progress.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee Chairwoman Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no items for official action. I would like to recognize the efforts of the Recreation and Entertainment Commission. They've been working hard to acquire donations and sponsorships for their concert series. They are also down some members, so if you know anybody who might be interested, please recommend that they apply and volunteer. I would also like to recognize all the work that's been going into pool events, so thank you to our Public Works Director, to Sarah, our Assistant Borough Manager, to Tiffany Reed, who's the new pool manager. There's a lot of exciting events coming, and those are detailed somewhat in our notes, and you'll be hearing more about that soon. So that's all I have to report. Our next meeting will be March 7th at 4:45 PM via Zoom. Progress.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. We already have the ordinance 1239. We have additional emergency services reports included in your packet. Were added to the reports that were distributed last meeting. The meeting notes from February 8th here in the packet. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 30th at 9 AM via Zoom. With that, I report progress.
Thank you. General Administration Committee, we already passed ordinance 1240 on first reading. We have an appointment tonight for Jennifer Falegi to the Library Board with a term expiring January 1st, 2026. Would somebody like to make that motion? Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilwoman McManaman. Any discussion? By the way, she is an excellent candidate and was recommended 3-0 vote by the committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
What were the motions again?
It was Councilman Hart and Terry was second.
Thank you.
Those opposed? There are 7 ayes. So we have to take action on. The meeting notes are available for your reading, and our next meeting is Thursday, March 2nd via Zoom at 9 AM. Progress. Budget and Finance Committee, Chairman Dufresne.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item for tonight is Resolution 2023-10. The bill list resolved by Borough Council to authorize payment of the February 21st, 2023 bill list as follows. Bill list $389,565.93. Payroll number 3, $177,958.63. Payroll taxes $57,303.69 for a total of $624,828.25 on this 21st day of February 2023, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Dufresne. Is there a second? Councilman Balliet. Discussion on the bills. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
You can see the significant revenue and expense items for the first half of February in your packet. And then the next item here is the pension RFP, pension consultant RFP. So Shane, why don't you give a little bit of background on this, please?
Sure. So one of the things that we've been kind of going around and around and about, especially at the pension board level, is going out for an RFP for a pension investment firm. And so just for council's information, and actually Mr. Ladenburg and Madam Mayor would know better than I, but at least for a decade and a half, and probably much longer, Wells Fargo was our investment firm. As a matter of fact, probably over 20 years, maybe.
I don't actually know because I've only been on the pension board since
Okay.
you're here.
So
Yeah.
Lee, probably 20 years. And so Wells Fargo sold their pension firm to a company called Principal. And in that time, our customer relations representative retired at the same time, and he had been our customer relations representative since the inception of our relationship with them. And so we've talked about at the pension board level that we needed to at least go out and look for other firms. That is not my expertise. It is not the expertise of probably 99% of us. Nobody on the pension board feels that that's their expertise. So we've looked at, a consultant firm to assist us with the process, advertising, but also vetting firms that would put in for the RFP. And so there's a local firm that specializes in this. This is one of the things that they do. They would recuse themselves from bidding on it themselves, but they would treat us as their client, and they would do the initial round of reviews They would do the RFP itself, design everything, bring everything in, and then they would give us a report as to why each firm is either a fit or not ideal. And I'll be honest with you, it also eliminates that, hey, my buddy's investment firm down the road is really good, I really like them, kind of feeling, you know, it looks at it from a more objective point of view. There's $20 million of funds here that need to be properly invested the right way, the legal way, because there are laws that govern municipal investments. A lot of things that we are not specialists in. So, you know, the whole thought process is let's hire somebody that this is what they do. And we can save money by having this company, even though we're paying money for them to do it. If we have the right firm, fees can go down. But also if they're investing the right way, you know, we can do better in some of our pension investments. So so our feeling was, you know, we talked about it at the pension board level, and then we presented it to the Budget and Finance Committee. And Engelbert is the consulting firm that we thought would be a good fit for us. So it's Engelbert Financial Advisors, and the cost is $7,500.
Shane, do you want to explain the timeline, what we're looking at for this too?
Yeah, and so, you know, again, like we've gone around and around and around between pension board, myself and Sarah of trying to design an RFP, and this just seems, this is drug out for almost a year. These guys will have this process done before June. You know, they're talking within a couple weeks, they would start having the RFP going. And then, you know, give them about a month for the presentations and things like that to come back. And then, you know, they would present, you know, their findings to us, and then we as a council or a budget and finance committee in a joint meeting with the pension board would interview what would essentially be the top 3 candidates. By the time you get through all that and then hire them, it would be about June.
Shane, just a question. We don't have to bid this, right?
No, it's a consultant. So we've actually referred to our solicitor about that. Because it's a consulting service, it doesn't need, it's a professional service.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And just so you know, we did review that and checked it with PSAB. It is clear this way, so you're fine to do it. That not only that, it's also below your bid threshold because of the $7,500 amount.
So what you would do is you would split the difference, and it's going to come out of, remember, we decided that we were going to pay the additional for out of the MMO lines. So that's where this would come out.
Oh, yeah, we did, that's part of the ordinance, yeah.
That part of the motion.
I mean, the motion, yes.
Yeah.
Money comes from that as part of the motion,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, the only thing that I would add then, Shane, is to what you said there is, as you alluded to there, the cost, what the financial advisor charges. That is historically a large part of returns on investments, the expenses of that, and most of these are modeled that are going to be very similar investment styles. So this company will help us pick out what the difference in investment style is and what the difference in cost is. And I believe it will save much more than the $7,500 over the life of this here. So I will make a motion to sign a consulting agreement with Engelbert Financial Advisors LLC for the consultant RFP at a cost of $7,500 with the money coming out of the MMO line, you said?
Yeah.
The money coming out of the MMO line of our budget.
There's a motion by Councilman Dufresne. Is there a second? Councilwoman Baumgartner, discussion? I might add, originally when it was brought up, $7,500 to bid out for new companies to run our pension, I was like, well, why can't we just bid it out and do the interviews? It's just fees we're looking at, until something Shane brought up about the company. And I didn't hear anyone mention this. It said the average pension fund in Pennsylvania, the whole state, is doing 2% better than ours. Do you know how much 2% of $20 million is? It's $400,000. That opened my eyes, and I changed my mind immediately, because $7,500 to save potentially $400,000. It's a non-issue. It's a smart move, and it might be more than that because the fees might come down also. So I mean, it's a good thing. Hopefully it works out for us. So any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
Okay, thank you. You can see in there the minutes from our meeting. Just one thing to make sure, where read the I&I sewer work line item in there, paragraph, pardon me, in there, because we are, when you start talking about I working possibility of a $4 million loan, and we talked about 2 budget sessions ago than last year. So just be aware that that's coming up shortly. With that, our next meeting is Thursday, March 2nd at 11 a.m. via Zoom. Unless there's any questions or progress.
Thank you. Community Relations Planning and Development Committee, Chairwoman McManaman.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have one item for official action this evening. The Emmaus Farmers Market has requested the extension of the closure of 4th Street to Jubilee Street for their winter market. This would be for the 2nd and 4th Sundays of the month from December to April. The regular season is every Sunday from May to November. The market currently has 20 current vendors. They are looking to add 7 more. They feel that they're tight right now, but they are making it work. And they feel that during the winter, if there is any inclement weather or snow on the triangle, they do have an issue that they can't use the triangle. So they feel that this would add consistency as well as growth for the market. And I believe that the 3 of us on CRD thought the same thing. So I'd like to make a motion that we extend the closure of 4th Street to Jubilee Street for the winter market, the 2nd and 4th Sundays of
Motion by Councilwoman McManaman, seconded by Councilman Hart. Discussion. What's the process for PennDOT? How long will that take?
Yeah, so I have to, so first of all, it's for next winter season. It wouldn't be effective for the rest of this winter. I have to take a look at the blanket permit that they gave me. We may already have that approval. If
Okay.
not, then I have to just reapply for a blanket.
But if we have a blanket, we would just notify them of the dates then?
I already have I would have already had a permit that allows me to close
That
on
covers
those
that,
days.
okay.
But I believe though that my permit doesn't say that, but I haven't looked at it. But I would just reapply for to cover those days.
I think this is great that they're expanding in the winter and till next year, it could be 10 vendors that are addition and we want growth. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Just a thought, is there any value in putting requesting for permit for every weekend?
So that's it. That's what I'm gonna do. And I almost think that that's how the blanket permit reads. I think, that's what I'm saying. I think, but I've got to find out what the time period is on that is my issue. I think I stopped it in November of the year, I think is how it's written, but I would do it that it's just blanket. And so that way, if, again, there was a week where they had to have it on the 1st or the 3rd.
and it was covered, that's why.
Yeah, and so if for some reason they had to change it, or they decide, hey, this market's taken off on Sundays, we want to do it every Sunday, then the permit covers it all. So I have to see how the permit, PennDOT was gracious to give me a blanket permit. So I just have to see how it reads.
Just curious, how does the process work? Is there a renewal involved or is it good for X amount of time?
It's every year I kind of just inform them,
Still going.
yeah, and they give me another blanket permit.
Okay.
If not, I mean, I just have to go through the process. We have enough time where it'll probably take them a couple months to get it back to us.
Great. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
Please take note of the February 8th meeting notes, and our next meeting is Monday, February 27th at 4:30 via Zoom. For progress.
Thank you. Under boards and commissions, you have 2 sets of meeting notes. Personal appeals part 2, there's nobody present here. Do we have anyone online that would like to make an appeal? You will be unmuted. If you have an appeal, please state your name and what your appeal is. And now would be the time to do it. Anybody? All right, hearing none. Borough Manager's report.
So I have several items for you. First of all, Robert Leach, our newest public works employee, is doing an excellent job. As per the union contract, once the employee meets their probationary period, and they meet the qualifications of different classes, by contract, we are to promote them. It does require a vote of council, so I would ask that you promote Robert Leach from Public Works Class 1 to Class 3 because he has successfully completed his probation.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Bally, seconded by Councilman Hart. Discussion, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, there are 7 ayes.
I will state that we are extremely satisfied with Robert's progress. Great addition to the department, great attitude, great work ethic. So we are very happy with Robert's progress. The next item is Resolution 2023-8, just like the resolution 2 weeks ago for one of the grants. We need to just simply amend the resolution for the H2O grant program, that's for the water tanks, to put the dollar amount for the grant application in.
Right, is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-8? Councilman Anderson, seconded by Councilwoman Baumgartner. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, there are 7 ayes.
I do have to inform you, I won't announce their names, you see it in the in your packet. We have terminated the employment of 2 EMS employees. One was a van driver, one was an EMT, not because they were doing anything wrong, but because they haven't worked and they were still on the rosters. So we have to formally announce that we've terminated their employment. But we've written them, both of them, several letters and they failed to respond. And so at this point, I just want to announce that I terminated their employment relationship with us. And the last thing is, I would like, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I'd like an executive session on personnel matter, just to inform council of an action that was taken.
Okay, and are we taking any action?
No.
It's just for informational.
Yeah.
Under president's business, I just want to mention, when I read the meeting minutes, I saw 2 different separate committees mentioning about having having an ad hoc committee. I just want to remind everyone that council president is responsible for assigning committees, and I'm fine with it, but just keep me in the loop. If you want to have an ad hoc committee, let me know so I'm aware of it, because that is something that I'm responsible for. So with that being said, we'll go into executive session at 6:58 for personnel issues with no decisions to be taken. And at this time, do we have any questions from the press? Council is reconvening at 7:18. Motion to adjourn. Councilwoman Baumgartner, seconded by Councilman Hart. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:18. Yay.
His father was chief at Amazon.
Oh.
He didn't work in Allentown. Oh,